Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast. It is Monday morning. We are all present and correct here to talk about tennis. David in a screamingly vibrant lime green Seattle Seahawks hoodie. It's jumping out of my screen, David.
Yeah, well, after our live Q&A show on YouTube for Friends a few nights ago, in which I promised to be wearing my Disco David outfit, which even suggested somewhere that there might be sequins involved, I realised I didn't have one of those. And also, the Seahawks are playing in Monday Night Football tonight, so I thought, OK, I've got about 12 items of merchandise from the Seahawks. Let's get the brightest one. So here I am.
I dare say you've succeeded, David. It was a real sort of jolt of caffeine through my laptop when you popped up. I like it. How are the Seahawks doing? Better or worse than Fulham?
Better, to be honest. Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt, but I don't know whether how Fulham are getting on versus how the Buffalo Bills are getting on. But yeah, Seahawks are 4-2 and going in the right direction and Super Bowl bound.
Matt, Super Bowl bound for Fulham FC? Or
no, neither of my teams
are
doing particularly well at the moment. The Bills have lost 2 in a row. Fulham have lost 3 in a row. It's a bit of a tough scene right now, but
is it
things
a
are going to get better. Fulham only lost 1-0 to the league leaders, so not awful.
No points for not awful.
We've got a bit of a tennis injury crisis at the moment. Like, everyone's injured, except for us, it's the start of the season rather than the end of the season. So it's rather problematic for us.
Wishing all of your respective teams much luck while my team languishes in League One. You should all be checking your privilege, quite frankly. Right, on to tennis. And let's start, shall we, as much as I'd like to start, in Almaty with Daniil Medvedev and Corentin Moutet's fancy outfits. Let's start in Ningbo and the WTA 500 event there and the race to the WTA finals, which is approaching the finish line, and Elena Rybakina took a big stride towards the finish line and towards the WTA finals with a title in Ningbo, a victory over Ekaterina Alexandrova in the final, 3-6, 6-love, 6-2. She beat Jasmine Paolini in the semi-finals. Paolini, though, by having that run to the semi-finals, has secured her qualification for the WTA finals. Rybakina will qualify if she reaches the Tokyo semi-finals this week. So she has to keep going in her quest, and it really is a long old slog at this time of the season if you're trying desperately to haul yourself over that finish line. Lorenzo Musetti talked about it this week in one of his on-court interviews. He's trying to do the same, but with the ATP finals, and he said, I'm dead, basically. I'm absolutely out on my feet, but I'm just desperately trying to get there, and that is the situation that Elena Rybakina is in, and she's put herself in the driving seat, David, crucially here.
Yeah, it's actually pretty complicated to look at as a sort of list of standings. I'm grateful to Matt for really paraphrasing it down to just semi-finals will get Rybakina there, because when you look at the standings, she's only sort of 20 points behind Paolini and she's only 15 points behind Andreeva, but there's a good briefing. If you want the full breakdown, go to the Monday morning briefing that the Athletic have done, where they've really broken down why Rybakina needs to reach the semi-finals to add to her total, because you've got to play a certain number of tournaments that count to your end of season position. But just in terms of what Rybakina did last week, got a lot of respect for it, because it is tough at this time of year. You've just referenced how Lorenzo Musetti's feeling. We've got Mirra Andreeva, who's actually not playing this week, and I'm pretty relieved. I mean, you would understand if this is a player who hasn't managed to get to this end of year finals yet, and this would be a massive deal to her. This would be a massive deal for Andreeva to get to the finals on paper. But the thing is, she looks gone. The last time I saw Andreeva play, every few points she was tearful, and she was just, you could feel like she's just hanging on to her nerves, and as though the season has just gone on too long. She had this wonderful spring. She's had many, many great moments that have got her into this position where she could reach the 8 in Riyadh, and it just looks like there's nothing left. I don't know the reasons why she hasn't played this week, and when maybe she might have done. But contrast that to Rybakina, who I'm sure is tired, but her and Alexandrova, the sort of the way they were able to just dig in and produce a final, when they must be so tired. It has been a long season, and this was a really grueling week generally for Rybakina. I was watching her against Diana Yastremska earlier in the tournament as well, and there were loads of moments where she could have sort of checked out a little bit herself, and there were several moments when I thought, I don't see her going all the way. And then she faces Paolini, she wins that. I think Paolini, by that point, she knew she'd done enough, and maybe there's a little less in the tank there. But even so, Rybakina's still got the game. She's trying to find the aura, I feel, at the moment. And you probably only do that by doing what she's doing, winning loads of matches, however you can, and giving herself a chance to get to the finals.
Yeah, just on Andreeva choosing not to play this week. Well, we assume choosing not to play this week. We don't know the reason. Nobody seems to know the reason. It's worth pointing out that she is Russian. It can be harder for Russian players to get visas for places. Certainly at last minute, she wouldn't have known whether she was necessarily going to enter a tournament this week, depending on where she was sitting in those standings. It could be something to do with that. It could be absolutely nothing to do with that at all. I really hope that this is a long-term, level-headed decision that to preserve herself, to not prioritise qualification for Riyadh ahead of her physical and mental well-being at this moment in time. And okay, she's young. She could bounce back. She would bounce back from exhaustion. But you don't necessarily bounce back from jadedness. I don't want to see a jaded teenager on the tour. And as David has described there, she has looked absolutely out on her feet recently, and she is so young, she is so good, she will have so many opportunities to qualify for and probably win the year-end finals. It is not the be-all and end-all that she does it this year, and to if that is the decision that she's made, then that is an incredibly brave one, and a testament to her and to the people that she has around her. And we all, and I think tennis all, really rate Conchita Martinez as her coach, and that relationship and dynamic that they have. And look, this is speculation here, but if that is the meat of the decision making, then I have so much respect for it. While I also have respect for what Elena Rybakina is doing, but she's in a different place in her career, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be honest, as soon as I saw that Andreeva wasn't playing this week, my assumption was that it was actually a scheduling mistake, and they'd not entered an event thinking that they'd probably still be in for the WTA finals, and now it's suddenly all got a lot closer. And I think these players really do want to get to the WTA finals, and I think given the season Andreeva has had, I think it would feel like a slight shortcoming if she doesn't end up at the WTA finals. But I do absolutely take your point as well. It may well be something to do with a visa. It also may well be a decision to rest and think, okay, I've kind of done all I can. I've given all I have this year. If I get in, I do. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. I truly don't have a sense of what the reason is there, I'll be honest.
But you think the most likely scenario is fuck up?
I think it's,
I love that.
It's more likely that tennis players mess up their schedule than, really go out of their way to prioritise their health and well-being. And I don't know, just on the whole, I sort of, I think we're shifting towards
You're making
that.
me sound
Absolutely.
fantastically naive, Matt, and I fear you might. I fear you might be right. Because
I hope you're right.
It is remarkable how often tennis players and their teams mess up schedules. Do you remember when Kevin Anderson forgot to enter Queen's the year after he had reached the final? David, do you remember that? And he had to play he had to play qualifying. He was a top 10 player and he was in Queen's qualifying, playing in a sort of car park.
Yeah, well, we used to have it quite a lot at Queen's. There were several players that you kind of always assume are going to be there, and it really, sometimes it was only down to a good. I mean, we had great tournament directors, Chris Commode, Stephen Farrow, who they would make it part of their job to just be on the player's case. Have you entered? Because there was one time I remember. Dimitrov, the last minute, he played every year. So, of course, he's going to play. And suddenly we realise he's not on the list. And then next thing you know, Stephen's on his case.
Go, like, hi, Gregor, I'm not for a moment suggesting that you or your team have dropped the ball here. Wouldn't suggest that for a moment. Not at all. But just letting you know that you're not on the entry list for Queen's. You are the defending champion. I'll just leave that with you. Yeah. Just let me know. So basically, in short, I'm naive, and Matt's probably right.
And like you said, there are a couple of players, and you mentioned Anderson, that I've seen other players in qualifying at the event that are serious top duty players who would get in no trouble at all, and it ends up sort of helping them in a way because. Get a few matches in qualifying, get the court under your feet. I often think that the players coming out of qualifying look more ready to go.
I suppose the things I would say is if Andreeva does end up getting in, I think she's more likely to perform better at the WTA finals for not playing this week. She looks, as you said, she looks like she needs the rest. So, perhaps perhaps it is that decision. If I'm going to have a shot at the WTA finals, I need to rest now. It might mean I don't get in, but I'm more likely to be able to perform better when there if I do have a rest. I suppose the other thing I would say is that, coming out of the US Open, it looked pretty likely that Andreeva would be there. Okay, she's not had a good end to the season, but fair play to Paolini and Rybakina, who have racked up the points in these last few weeks and really put the pressure on and made it a race. And we've talked a lot about what Paolini's done to secure her qualification. Just on Rybakina, she'd actually never beaten Alexandrova on a hard court before. In fact, she'd lost every set they'd played on a hard court. All 3 meetings she'd lost in straight sets against Alexandrova on hard courts previously. And then she goes down a set in the final. She's lost 7 sets in a row on a hard court to Alexandrova. The turnaround that Rybakina then produced, she won 9 games in a row in the middle of that final. And I think Alexandrova dropped off a bit, but I wouldn't say massively. I thought Rybakina suddenly, from almost nowhere, produced the kind of tennis that I think we all have in our mind of what Rybakina is capable of. Dominant tennis with the big serve, the big ground strokes, and just totally took over that final, became almost unplayable, I thought. And to find that in a final that, she kind of needed to win to really keep up this bid to make the WTA finals against an opponent who's troubled her in the past was really impressive. When I've doubted the Rybakina clutch gene over the past year, to be honest. I still have some concerns. I don't think she's fixed that. But to step up in this moment was impressive. And these these 500s seem to be her sweet spot right now. You know, these 1 week events. She's done a lot better at them over the last couple of seasons than she has in the extended tournaments. And yeah, I do think she would be a real threat to the field at the WTA finals if she gets there. You know, in those conditions, I think you know, she's kind of shown that she can hit anyone off the court on her best day, and she does seem to be finding some of her best tennis of the season right now.
That's kind of true of Alexandrova as well, like a specialist at these 500 events, and
Just can't quite win the final.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she's top 10 player now, Alexandrova. She plays so much. Like, if she obviously this is, you know, the keys to the kingdom, but if she could play the level of tennis that she plays at 500 events, like regularly, week in, week out, at slams and at 1000s, but obviously particularly at slams, she'd be a major factor in tennis. But she's such a chronic underperformer at slams. She's close to the inexplicable list, really.
One of my favourite lists.
She can look so damn good. Yeah.
I am fascinated to know whether that will come into her thinking at all after this year of achievement, because it needs noting. I'm glad you mentioned, you know, top 10 player. You know, this is somewhere she hasn't been. She's been striving for years, Alexandrova, without necessarily taking the attention of people like us or just generally. She's always a factor in a draw. She wins a lot of matches, but she doesn't win many of the really big ones. And she's just forced her way into the conversation more this year, with consistency. And I wonder whether that having been ticked off might make her even approach things a little bit different next year. But anyway, 2025, great year for her.
Rybakina is the second seed in Tokyo. Paolini is withdrawn, but after the draw, so Belinda Bencic has taken her place at the top of the draw, sort of de facto top seed. Do we think Rybakina is going to do it? Will she reach the semi-finals? Make it to Riyadh?
I think so, but she has got a tough draw. I think she'd have to play likely Leylah Fernandez very, very early, certainly within those first two wins that she'd need. If you know, it's likely that she'll have to play Fernandez, and I've seen that match, and that can sometimes be a real struggle for both players, I would say. And yes, as David pointed out, she's a bit unlucky because she should really probably only have to win one match in Tokyo, but because of the weird way the rankings work, she's already played more than 18 tournaments, and the 18 are what counts to your finals ranking, so she needs to better a previous result that she's got on her ranking, and that means she needs to reach the semi-finals to actually earn points off it. So
it's annoyingly complicated, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Okay, glad we're agreed on that. Leylah Fernandez hot off a title in Osaka, WTA 250 title, her second of the season. She does just pop up and do this, Leylah Fernandez. She beat Tereza Valentova in the final. 6-love, 5-7, 6-3. A talented young Czech player. Words that you have heard before, but she really is the real deal, I think, Tereza Valentova. I think she was pretty nervous in this final. It's a very, very big deal for her, whereas Leylah Fernandez is really able to show her fangs in this sort of a situation. What a low-key great fantasy team signing she's been for you, David. What did you know that we didn't?
Yes, but only late on. I sort of traded for her late on.
She's won 2 titles since you signed her.
Yeah. Well, you know, yes, she needs to have a word with the rest of her teammates. get them to all buck their ideas up a bit, because there's not enough of them performing as far as I'm concerned. But yes, fair point, Catherine. Leylah's done it for Dave's dead certs, who turned out weren't dead certs.
Who could have thought that Hubert Hurkacz wouldn't be a dead cert? Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, that was a tragedy, that pick. But anyway, Fernandez, she is so explosive at times and difficult to play against, but her wins often feel quite isolated, and you just want her to become a factor more often, because whenever she does win a title, she makes it a fun time. She makes people care about the results, the performances. You want to see her on the stage a lot, because she's still one of the best watchers in the sport. But I like this. I like the fact that she's come through late in the season and shown this, because her game kind of works on most surfaces, and I still hope that she can kind of burst out the blocks in Australia. And because, wouldn't it be great to see her on the Rod Laver Arena having significant matches against top players and getting
being
some
the best
wins
show in tennis.
Yeah,
she was in the autumn
that's
of
what Pam called her,
2021.
Isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, credit to her.
And in terms of Valentova, I understand if listeners have a bit of fatigue about being tipped off about young Czech female talents and them being ones to keep your eye on. Is Tereza Valentova different? And if so, why? Like, is this the real deal we've got here? Is she something special?
Well, speak to James Hansen, who is the tennis editor at The Athletic, and he is the earliest of early adopters for Valentova. I
don't want to make him sound weird, but he is borderline obsessed with Tereza Valentova.
Frankly, banging on about her all year, heading out to outside courts at slams, And this week he was texting me after every Valentova match, and then he gave me some stick because Arsenal beat Fulham and he's an Arsenal fan, and I thought, right, I'm going to give you some homework, James. I want a statement from you on this week from Valentova, from the Valentova guy, getting to a final. This is a big moment. And, he produced a very nice analysis of her week, which you can read in full on The Athletic on that Monday briefing that David's mentioned. But he's picked out a few things in particular. Her ability to beat higher ranked players than her has been impressive over the last couple of years. She's been, not just getting a lot of wins, but getting really good wins relative to her ranking. She's had an extremely good record at this tournament and at the slams this year from winning from a set down, really showing a lot of resilience in matches. And in terms of the game, James has picked out improvements on serve, real willingness to use drop shots and craft in her game, and the forehand is still a little bit of a weakness. I've seen that it can be rushed, but she's also got some weapons. I remember watching her against Rybakina at the US Open. In fact, with you, Catherine, I think James was there as well. Of course he was, and she didn't look like hugely underpowered even against Rybakina. Like, okay, obviously a little bit, but she's got enough there. So definitely on the rise. And yes, I think it's only a matter of time before James will be going blonde.
You've written a check for James there that he and Tereza now have to cash.
Right.
And I'm absolutely here for it. Okay, great. That's it for the women. Join us in part 2. We will head to Almaty with joy in our hearts. Welcome back to part 2 of the tennis podcast, where we head down to Almaty, Kazakhstan, and a title for Daniil Medvedev. He beat Corentin Moutet 7-5, 4-6, 6-3 in the final here. His 21st career title. He has broken his title drought. This is first since May of 2023, so more than 18 months for Daniil Medvedev without a title, but he continues his incredible record of only winning titles in different locations. This is his 21st, and they have come in 21 different places. And what a final it was. In the words of David Whittaker via text yesterday, I'll take Mute v Medvedev over Sinner v Alcaraz any day. I had been waiting for that text to come in, and lo and behold, it came. But Sinner as it might not have been, but it was a whole bunch of fun. It was fantastic, this final, David.
Yeah, but I mean, pretty much, I do think pretty much the ultimate stylistically attractive match for me. Because I don't typically find Medvedev that great to watch. If he's playing another good baseliner, I'm usually a bit bored by the styles of the match. But then I'll watch it because it's Daniil Medvedev and anything can happen. And even if he's just winning straightforwardly, his post-match interview is likely to be worth a listen. But put him up against Mute, and you just have the most intoxicating combination. I mean, I will watch Mute play against the wall, frankly. But when I was watching this, I was thinking, because Mute immediately went a break up, and I thought, think of what Alcaraz does to Medvedev when Alcaraz is playing well. All the drop shots and the angles and the sort of messing him around. Could he do it? Could he get inside his head? I went away for a little bit, come back. Medvedev's won the first set 7-5. And then I'm locked in for the rest of the match. And the fact that Mute got himself a comeback, and he just got more and more outrageous with the things that he was trying. He would sometimes play rallies where he's just slicing and he's slow balling and he's floating these balls onto the baseline. And then he'll whip a forehand through. And then he'll hit a sort of off-pace cross-court angle. And then he'll hit a lob. And it's the ultimate of what John McEnroe used to talk about, giving a different ball every time. Mute's actually trying to wind you up, I think, as well as kind of strategically play points. He's trying to just piss you off until you just lose it. And, well, he picked quite a good candidate, really, but in Daniil Medvedev, given the evidence of the last 6 to 8 months. But Medvedev stuck at it. And, I mean, it looks like he was quite unwell. It looked like he got the lurgy all week long. And unfortunately, that was demonstrating itself in some quite horrific looking nose blowing from Medvedev, which I could have done without seeing. But anyway, he dug in and really didn't look like he was going to win this match at various points. Mute tried absolutely everything, and I think they really won each other's respect in this match. And the final set, virtually every point, Matt and I were going back and forth with comments of what we'd just witnessed. And I do recommend having a look and watching this back, because they're a great watch. And the thing is, this was significant. That's a long time for Medvedev to go without a title. And he's been on such a downer all year long. And the first time he's ever won a title with his 2 young daughters there as well. It's kind of cute, to see that. And then you've got Mute, who's yet to win a title. So this was a massive deal. And Mute's at the highest ranking of his career. He's really putting it together, and it's great to see that, because it'd be so easy for a guy like him to just be the hits and giggles guy, and he is that. But he's actually showing that he can win tennis matches and be quite an effective player. And he seems to have got his attitude together in a way that he wants to make the most of it. I can't wait to see more of them.
Be a good sport. Like, Mute was going for his first title there. He's lost it in a heartbreaker. And he's pretty magnanimous about then being made to put on a full Kazakh national jaunty costume. Like, there are a lot of tennis players that wouldn't have taken that in such good spirits, I don't think.
He wore it well.
Maybe most of them. Yeah, it was great. He did a great speech. He said he was proud of Medvedev. It was fantastic.
Yeah, he said to his team, "You didn't let me down today," which I thought was quite amusing as well. Yeah, like I'm such a sucker for those, tournaments that get the players to wear some national clothing, a shapan, I believe it's called. That's a Kazakh robe like that, and I thought they saw what the Mexican
tournaments do with the hats, and they thought, I see you and I raise you, and I love it.
Yeah, it's just brilliantly camp that Medvedev's first title in 29 months and 882 days then comes with accompanied photos of him wearing this robe, and it's just brilliant. I just love it. And
God, 29. I said more than 18 months, didn't I? I've missed out a whole year there. 29 months.
There was no check.
That is crazy.
There was no sort of, are you okay to put this on? There was no. It was just like, here you go.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah, and that's right. I think that's exactly it, isn't it? A 250 towards the end of the season, given everything Daniil Medvedev has achieved, shouldn't feel that significant. But because of the drought, because of the doubts, because of the decline, frankly, that he's been in for so long, getting over the line and winning a title, hopefully, is a big confidence boost for him. And also, I think there were some elements there that he can take forward to next year, because for the first time in a while, I actually thought that his serve was a helpful difference maker for him. He went after it. He was really getting the pace up on the serve. It was a weapon again for him, and a bit of a difference really between him and Mute. Mute can't really rely on hitting big serves in the way that a lot of players can. And also his willingness, Medvedev, to come to the net. I mean, I think a lot of that was the matchup and the slow balls that Mute gives you. Those sort of balls that aren't short but aren't deep. They're sort of in the middle of the court and maybe force you to come in off them a little bit as well. And also you can slightly attack his backhand because likely you're going to get a slice off it, and it's a good move then to come to the net and close it. But he came in more than 50 times, Medvedev, in this match, and that's a lot for anyone. That's a huge number for the guy who's been the sort of baseline backboard traditionally through his career. But as he moves into his 30s, Medvedev, that old game style is not going to work. Everyone has to adapt, but I think Medvedev in particular, because of his game style, is going to have to adapt. And I always thought those first couple of sets he played against Sinner in that Australian Open final that he ended up losing would be a really good template for him going forward. And I don't think he's had the form to be able to play like that for a while. But it seemed like there was a bit more intent. And yeah, I guess I just really respect the move that he's made to depart with Gilles Savaro. It must have been a difficult move considering all the success they'd had together. But he realised that a change was needed, and you're kind of seeing the fruits of that straight away with finally getting a title again. And hopefully this is the start of Medvedev moving back in the right direction towards the top 10 again. I think we've had the peak Medvedev years, I really do, but I would like to think that he can be a top 10 player again, and I would like to see that because, as David said, he's always good value at the end of matches with those interviews and press conferences as well.
Do you each foresee him qualifying for the ATP finals in 2026? Because I think he's 14 in the world now off the back of that. He's got half the points of Taylor Fritz at world number 4, half the number of points.
I think
so. Look, it's not an absolute disaster. He hasn't dropped off a cliff, but he's nowhere near where he has been.
No, I'm going to say yes to that because I think the main thing is appetite. Because it must be hard. I was thinking this watching him even the last few weeks. He plays such a lot. He was saying in the on-court speech, I've got a 5 a.m. flight in the morning to Vienna. It's a lot to be doing, isn't it? And listen, I know it's a great life, and he's got loads and loads of money, and he can shortcut a lot of things, and it can make it all luxurious and that sort of thing. But when you've been as high as he has, one in the world, Grand Slam champion, you've won everything basically. You've fought it out with Djokovic and Federer and Nadal, and now you're trying your best with Alcaraz and Sinner, and you've had wins over all of them, and then suddenly you're not doing that. Suddenly you're nowhere near Sinner and Alcaraz, and you're getting beaten by people that, and he always looks such hard work. When I look at Medvedev, the amount of times I see him in hard, grueling matches, it'd be so easy for him to just think, oh, just forget this now. I've had enough. I'm going to just go and enjoy my money and my wife, my family and my 2 kids, and, just not have to do this all the time. Well, clearly he's got hunger. Clearly he wants to make the most of his career. You're a long time retired. I can't wait to kind of talk to him about that when we next get a chance to go to a press conference with him. The fact that he has overhauled his support team, which has been so steadfast and so part of what has made him who he is as a player, that's quite bold, I think, at this stage of his career. I think it was absolutely necessary in the end, but I think it's the jump start. And the fact that he's, like, in that final game of the final against Mute, he just decided, I am going to win or lose this on my serve right now. I'm going to go flat out on my serve. And he was really banging it down. And even that game got to 30-all. But he took it out of Mute's hands. And the fact that he did that and he's going to the net, that to me makes his career potentially have a second wind to it. I think that he will reach the finals next year. It's the first time I thought about it. So good question, Catherine. And I'm on record.
Matt?
I think he could technically still reach the finals this year.
I saw you doing some typing. I was like, what is he fact checking me on there?
Yeah, well, look.
Do you think that's why he's headed to Vienna? Do you think he's on a quest?
No, I don't think he's like.
That's why he got the 5
totally
a.m. flight
gunning
to Vienna.
For it. But look, there's also a lot of injuries ahead of him. So he's currently 13 in the race. Rune's out, Draper's out, De Minaur's a question mark, Shelton's a question mark. Is Djokovic going to play? Like, there's a lot of players there who are ahead of him, but actually might not end up playing the finals. Some of them definitely not. And if he could win another title, look, it's a big if. He's just won a first title in 29 months. It may be unlikely that another one's going to come along straight away, and the field's going to be much tougher. But you've got 1,000 points to play for in Paris. Problem is he's already won Paris, hasn't he? So unfortunately, that is off the list in terms of him winning it. You've got 500
Vienna,
to play
though.
for in Vienna. If he can make finals.
Okay, my question for you then, Matt, given that you've circumvented my original question, is will he keep up this record for his whole career? It'll be my favourite stat ever if he does.
Oh, me too. It was like when I was gutted when Ostapenko lost in like a normal round of the French Open, because she had either winning it or losing in the first round, and it was perfect stat, and then she went.
She
and
lost in like
it.
round 3, didn't she?
Yeah, so boring.
So boring.
And she didn't play Swiatek when we were waiting for it.
Right, yeah.
She ruins
Medvedev's
everything.
very aware of it, though, isn't he? It was like the first thing he said in his post-match interview. He said, "Yep, it's another title in a different place, keeping up this crazy record." I think he likes it. I think he gets a kick out of it. But
because he likes funny and silly, and that's what we like about him. He gets irony. Yeah.
I think he probably will double up at some point.
Oh God, it'll be annoying.
But I hope not. I hope he
year.
just gets the Australian Open, and then that's like the big one that he hasn't got. I'd love Medvedev to win the Australian Open. I think that would be so funny.
It'd be like, do you remember when Yoshihito Nishioka ruined the triple bagel watch you were doing with Karen Khachanov? Matt has never watched a Karen Khachanov match so intently and never dropped it so quickly as when Yoshihito Nishioka won his first game of the match. And then didn't he go on to win a set or something? Anyway.
Yeah, it became a totally unremarkable scoreline.
Yeah.
Medvedev's got the right coach for an Australian Open breakthrough, though, hasn't he, now?
Yeah. Wow.
There we go.
There was a tennis
Thomas
relived
Johansson
on
could do the
Thomas
double
Johansson.
as player and coach.
That'd be quite good, wouldn't it? Yeah.
God, we've gone way over the top for a 250 in Almaty, haven't we?
I was just asking whether he was going to reach the ATP finals last year. That's all. Next year, that's all it was.
And by the way, I will say yes to that. And I guess my long-winded way of saying that is that even in this year where he's been way off his best and barely won matches at the Slams, he's left so many points on the table at the Slams this year, where there's obviously big points available. He's not a million miles from getting there even this year. So I do think he's trending in the right direction to qualify next year.
Yep, agree with you both. Let's head to Brussels now. The ATP 250 event there, won by Felix Auger-Aliassime, the indoor specialist that he is. He beat Jiri Lehečka in the final 7-6, 6-7, 6-2. Felix is now just over 300 points behind Lorenzo Musetti in the race for what is theoretically the 8th spot in Turin, although, as Matt's pointed out, there's a lot of question marks over who will actually end up being able to play in Turin. But in terms of the race as it stands, we're looking at Felix and Musetti. Musetti has made it very clear he wants this so much. He is hauling his sort of semi-mummified body around the circuit in an attempt to try and qualify for the ATP finals, obviously at home in Italy.
He said it's been more of a nightmare than a dream since Wimbledon, as he's trying to chase these points. And he's also now, it's probably his worst time of the season, indoor hardcourt, and he's got Auger-Aliassime breathing down his neck in his favourite time of the season. And it just feels like the guy at the end of the marathon or something, hanging on for dear life.
The guy
with
that
this
doesn't
guy
have the kick.
Charging. Yeah.
The guy that doesn't have the kick at the end, trying to hang on.
Yeah. And look, honestly, I think the players who are in Turin will probably be hoping that Musetti does qualify, because I think they'd all rather play Musetti on an indoor hard court than Auger-Aliassime, especially Musetti, who's having to push himself to the limit to even try and qualify, because there's a real serenity, I think, around Auger-Aliassime at the moment. Like
post-marriage Felix.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it did start before that, even at the US Open. He found something there in his game, and he has...
After he spoke to me.
Quite, yeah. The David Law pep talk.
Rinderknecht, Felix.
I mean, come on.
Too much to be coincidence.
It is amazing. He takes part in tennis podcast meets, and my question to him was, what's different about you compared to when you were in the semi-finals of this event and world number 6? And he just looked at me slightly quizzically as if to say, well, it's not that much different, but it's not overnight either. This is it was the classic sort of I'm a tennis player, not a podcaster answer. You have to do things bit at a time, not just sort of make some sweeping take. And I'm so impressed with him. I was watching that yesterday when he lost that second set. He looks like he's going to win the thing there and then in 2 sets. Lehečka comes back and makes a third set of it, and crikey, it'd be so easy to just lose your way, wouldn't it? And just be down on yourself when you've squandered these chances. And Lehečka doesn't give you much. But he just knuckled down again and off he went. I mean, I love that now, that Auger-Aliassime has sort of refound 3 years ago form. He would be dangerous, actually. Indoors in Turin, I think he'd be a great addition to it.
And you think the way he started his career as well, 0-8 in finals. He's now 8-11. He's really turned that record around in terms of being able to perform in the big moments. And as David said, I think start of his career, if he lost the second set in the way that he did, yes, Lehechka stepped up and saved a couple of match points, but the Auger-Aliassime forehand suddenly got a bit shonky down the stretch of that tie break. But he reset so well, and even when Lehechka pulled off a absolute miracle sort of forehand squash shot to save a break point at the start of the third, even then Felix wasn't flustered by it and ends up kind of cruising through the third set. And yeah, he's got at his best, he's got a very simple, effective game, Auger-Aliassime. Big serve, big forehand off the serve, and that works best indoors. And when he's confident like this, he's a real handful for even the best players. And yeah, he's really had a nice stretch of form now for a couple of months, and yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, I think he'll probably do it. I think I would pick him over Musetti, even though Musetti's technically in pole position right now. Describing the situation as a nightmare does not fill Musetti fans with confidence, especially when he's up against somebody who's in his favourite part of the season and looks honestly pretty fresh, actually. Felix Auger-Aliassime. Headed to Stockholm now, and a title won by Casper Ruud. He beat Hugo Humbert in the final. But probably the biggest story of the week in Stockholm, the scenes that have attracted the most attention for being pretty horrific, really. The injury sustained by Holger Rune in his semi-final against Hugo Humbert. He has now told us, my Achilles is fully broken on the proximal part, meaning I need an operation next week, and from here rehabilitation. And from anybody that knows anybody about Achilles ruptures, that's a kind of minimum 9 months on the sideline situation, possibly longer, possibly never being quite the same player again. This is absolutely devastating for Rune, and it was one of those that you knew was devastating from the second it happened. I mean, you heard him report to the ATP physio there on the court that he heard it go. He heard it. He physically heard the rupture happen, which is just horrifying for such a young player. It's just absolutely devastating to see, David.
Yeah, I couldn't put it more appropriately than that, really. It's he always seems as well so durable when I see him running around. You know, he looks like such a great athlete, like he can play any sport, but that area of the body is so fragile. There's nothing you can really do to reinforce the strength of that part of the body, and if it goes, it goes. And there's no shortcuts in the rehabilitation, really, either. I mean, you know, there are people that have had it and come back in various sports and been the same again, I think, but there are many that haven't as well. And I hope the best for him, obviously, that he makes a full recovery, but that he can handle the process, because again, this is a guy like Medvedev who plays a lot. You know, he likes to play a lot. He likes to be on the tour. He hasn't known anything but being on the tour for such a long time, and I mean, just not being able to do stuff other than rehab, I suppose, once the time comes, that's a real challenge mentally, and I really hope he can figure it out, you know, and find a peace and a kind of purpose to trying to rehab and get back eventually. But it might not be. It certainly won't be easy, but it might be really, really tough for him psychologically. That.
Yeah, I really share the same concern about him mentally and emotionally during this period. And having to sit on the sidelines and all the FOMO of that. I remember being in Turin for the ATP finals the year that he was there as an alternate. He'd had that brilliant run leading up to the ATP finals, out of nowhere, really, and he'd put himself randomly in contention. And he was there, I think he was with Patrick Mouratoglou at the time, and he was practicing more than anybody else. He was always on the practice court. He was practically sort of sitting courtside, like barely disguising the fact that he was willing somebody to get injured so that he could rush onto the court and get the opportunity to play. He was just fizzing with desperation to get on the tennis court. And maybe that's been to his detriment over the past few years in his development. I think it's very possible that he has overplayed. I don't know, but I worry about him over this period. He doesn't strike me as the sort of character at the moment that is going to cope with this well. Now, maybe he'll have some enforced sort of character development over this time, but I think it's going to be a rocky old road for him, certainly in these initial stages, and I hope he has good people around him.
And I noticed a lot of players either sort of posting direct good wishes to Holger Rune or commenting on the schedule as a result of this injury. And look, we don't know exactly what caused the Rune injury. He was already playing with a lot of strapping on the leg, sort of higher up the leg. It's possible it was sort of overcompensating injury. But I imagine that's sort of injury that I don't remember happening too often in tennis. As you said, there's certainly a lot in other sports, but I imagine it's the sort of injury that does shake the locker room a little bit and think, oh God, like that could be me, kind of thing. And I sort of get the sense that a lot of players are really feeling for Holger Rune, but also just a little bit worried about, like, you do sometimes start to see the same injury recur in a sport as the sport develops, and you really hope that this isn't one that comes to tennis regularly, because it is, as you said, a really, really tough one.
Yeah, it, as you say, it prompted a lot of, I'm sure, private behind the scenes reaching out to Holger Rune, but also a lot of front of house commentary. And one that kind of got the most attention was Jack Draper, who called a very early end to his season due to injury. He tweeted and posted a couple of days ago, "Injuries are going to happen. We are pushing our bodies to do things they aren't supposed to in elite sport. We have so many incredible younger guys on the tour right now, and I'm proud to be a part of that. However, the tour and the calendar have to adapt if any of us are going to achieve some sort of longevity." And Taylor Fritz weighed in on this at some length. I think during sort of sleeping hours in the UK, Jack Draper would have woken up to sort of explosion in his mentions, I think. Taylor Fritz said, "Facts. Also seeing more injuries and burnout now than ever before because balls courts conditions have slowed down a lot, making the weekly grind even more physically demanding and tough on the body." And he said a lot else, Taylor Fritz. He came with a lot of receipts about ball speeds and court speeds and kind of misunderstandings or common misconceptions on that front, sort of failure to factor in, to adequately factor in ball speeds when making decisions about court speeds. I thought was a really interesting point. He thought he posited the theory that Shanghai made the decision to slow down their courts because they tested the balls that they were going to use in quicker conditions than they actually ended up being used in, and therefore anticipated the conditions being too quick as a result of the balls, felt they needed to correct that with the court speed, but actually it was a massive overcorrection, which was an interesting point. But the wider point here is the one that I know we've been banging on about for for so long. But tennis is taking, with its calendar and its scheduling and its decisions, taking absolutely no account of the way the world and the sport is changing, and we are seeing the real world consequences of that. And I've heard nothing from the ATP. Nothing. Like, I suppose, what are they supposed to say? Oh, we fucked it. The 2-week-long Masters were a mistake. Lots, I don't know, but it just feels like everybody's sleepwalking through this crisis at the moment, David.
Yeah, and I think that they would say, well, we're providing more money. That's what you all wanted. You wanted more money. We're providing longer tournaments that can earn you more money. We're putting this massive bonus pool together, and of course they obviously have the two masters with the tournaments and the players. So they're always trying to appeal and satisfy both. But these are public words, and I would be interested to know what their reaction would be, and I think that is only going to continue as time goes on, the question marks.
Just quickly before we move on to talk more about money, Casper Ruud, Mats, good title for him in Stockholm.
Honestly, blew my mind a little bit, the tennis Casper Ruud played, particularly in the final. I mean, he described it as his best performance of the year. I think it's one of the best performances I've ever seen Casper Ruud play. He was seriously good in this final. Barely losing points on serve. He hit an astonishing forehand pass very early in this match from so far wide that really sort of set the tone. And that forehand was just so impactful. His slice on the backhand was staying low. And honestly, going through Cilic, Korda, Shapovalov, Humbert, I think is a very legit 4 players indoors for Casper Ruud to have to beat. All of those have the ability to rush him. And what I found was interesting is that he's changed racket a little bit since the US Open. He switched to a smaller frame. Same Yonex, but he's gone to a 98 rather than 100, and he's talked about how it just gives him a bit more control on the ball. And yeah, honestly, I just wanted to give Ruud his flowers there, because that was a remarkable performance. And it does make me reflect a little bit on his season. I think we probably think of it as a little bit disappointing, but he is, I'm going to keep banging on about the race. He is 11 in the race. He has changed a little bit the type of tournaments that he's winning. He used to be the 250 guy, didn't he? He won a 500 last year. He won a 1,000 this year for the first time. He's now won a title indoors on a hard court for the first time. He was a bit unlucky getting ill at the French Open, and that really did knock him out at what should be his probably best tournament of the year. And if he'd got sort of quarter-final points there instead of losing in the second round when he was ill, he would absolutely be in that race that we're talking about for the final Turin spot. And I do think even though he's reached Grand Slam finals, I still think if Casper Ruud's in contention to qualify for the year-end finals, that is a good season. So he is still in that race. He's an outsider, but he's still in it. He'd have to deliver this sort of tennis again on an indoor hard court and make sure it's not a total one-off. But I was really struck watching him. He looked dangerous and like he was a threat to these guys and bringing it to them. And yeah, I was just really impressed with Casper Ruud this week.
Consider Casper Ruud's flowers signed, sealed and delivered. What flowers would we like to offer to Jannik Sinner for successfully defending his Six Kings title in Riyadh?
He can buy his own.
He doesn't need flowers. He's got money. I think everybody got paid $1.5 million just for being there. Minimum 1.5 million, maybe some of them got more. Jannik Sinner won an additional 6 million for winning the title. Isn't money great, David?
I'm sure it is. Yeah. Oh dear, where'd you start? I mean, when I consider all the finals that we've been talking about, many of them hard fought, many of them 3 sets. This entire event unfolded without a deciding set. It was so flat. The tennis was so flat. And I mean, there were a few moments when Alcaraz played against Fritz. He clearly just went out. He actually said, I just went out. I wanted to show the crowd some shots. So he went out and he was playing Carlos Alcaraz exhibit. I mean, he might not have been playing for giggles, but he was playing to put on a show, and he did. And Fritz didn't know what to do with it. But apart from that, I mean, his in the final, I thought Sinner was clearly trying things himself that he's talked about and wanting. He's worked on this serve, and he was serving really well, and he won the final against Alcaraz. But the whole thing was gross, really. I thought. I mean, just if you consider that Auger-Aliassime and Ruud won €107,000. So what's that, $150,000 or something for winning their tournaments, and Alexander Zverev picked up $1.5 million for 59 minutes of drudgery, where they just don't look bothered. Why should they look bothered? It means absolutely nothing, completely irrelevant. It's just a money-making operation, and I could do without it.
On the not looking bothered thing, I was watching the final, sort of dipping in and out of the final between Sinner and Alcaraz, and particularly on Alcaraz's side, but to a large extent on both sides, like, it was very evident in their body language they did not give a shit. And I was torn between, my initial reaction to that was like real fury at how disrespectful that was to $6 million. Like, can you imagine a normal person doing anything for $6 million? How much they would fucking care. And like to treat $6 million like it's an irrelevance in that way felt pretty grotesque to me. But then on the other hand, I'd have found it grotesque if they cared, like, because I don't want them to care like they do about a Grand Slam final as about $6 million. I'd have been annoyed about that as well. So I realise, like, they can't win for me in this situation other than by not taking the paycheck to go to Saudi Arabia. But yeah, the whole thing turned my stomach quite considerably. My favourite moment was Novak Djokovic retiring in an exhibition so as not to give Taylor Fritz a proper win over him. That was really quite amusing.
Yeah, Fritz won a first set on a tie-break, and I mean, it was hard fought, it was close, hard fought set, and Djokovic just walked to the net. No, I can't. And listen, I mean, the guy is clearly not fit, really, at the moment. Djokovic, he's not fully fit. But again, doesn't it make you just sad that still turns up, still takes the money? Yes, gave the crowd a sight of Novak Djokovic and played a good hard set against Taylor Fritz. It's just, all of it. Just I just didn't want to have to put it on, and for the job I had to put it on. But
I didn't. Well, I did for like 2 minutes, and my main take was, couldn't they have found a way to write Saudi season on the court another time? Like, they'd written it 5 times on the court, Saudi season. That seemed to be their like only innovation. I sort of turned it on expecting, you say like you can't be bothered. It's almost like they can't be bothered either. Like, they've got these players there.
I would call their use of AI, but incredibly innovative. Can we talk about that for a moment? The extraordinary AI-generated graphics. Like, you're literally paying these players. Presumably you're paying them enough that you can just take actual real-world photographs of them rather than generate these extremely bizarre AI approximations of them, where Yannick Sinner looked like a sort of Henry VIII version of himself. Like, he looked a bit gouty. I don't know what happened with Taylor Fritz. Like, that just
Different
wasn't
person.
that just simply wasn't Taylor Fritz. I don't know. If I'm Taylor Fritz's people, I'm complaining about that. It was like they didn't know who was going to fill the final spot, so they just said to the AI machine, just give me a generic tennis man for the 6th player. Like, extraordinary. What an absolute pile of tosh. Right, that is it for part 2. We'll be back in part 3 to have a little look ahead to this week. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast. What do we got to look forward to this week? Well, I told you that the WTA is in Tokyo this week. Rybakina aiming to reach the semi-finals to qualify for the WTA finals. She's the 2nd seed, as Matt has laid out. She's got potentially quite tricky draw, could face Leylah Fernandez. Fernandez has Maria Sakkari in round 1. We've had a repeat round 1, Mukova drawing Vondrousova again, and Mukova's already won that via retirement. Tough end to Marketa Vondrousova's season, which obviously, tough beginning to Marketa Vondrousova's season as well. We've got Victoria Mboko against Bianca Andreescu, which is a match I instinctively want to get very, very excited about, but there's a part of my heart saying, don't let yourself get hurt, Catherine. Especially as Victoria Mboko hasn't seemed quite herself since the summer. Dennis Schneider against Diana Yastremska is a round 1. Victoria Golubic already lost to Maya Joint. A lot of these matches have already happened because that's where we are in the season at the moment. Tennis is taking place at goodness knows what times of day. And we've got Belinda Bencic as the top seed. We also have the WTA 250 event in Guangzhou with Jessica Boothas Monero, Anne Lee, Tatiana Maria and Alexandra Ayala as the top 4 seeds. It's not giving blockbuster, that, is it? But there we go. The ATP this week has 2 500 events, one in Vienna and one in Basel. Vienna obviously had Jack Draper as its defending champion. He's not defending his title, but we do have Yannick Sinner there as the top seed, Alexander Zverev as the 2nd seed, and we have round 1s that include Thomas Machac against Flavio Caboli, Alexei Popyrin against Matteo Berrettini, Tsitsipas Musetti. That's tough for Musetti, isn't it? He's already having a nightmare. And Karen Khachanov against Talon Griekspoor in Basel. Giovanni Pesci Pericard is the defending champion. I had forgotten that. Totally forgotten that. You're nodding like you've got vivid memories of Pesci Pericard's romp to the Basel title last year, David.
I'd forgotten a lot about this time last year, I've got to be honest.
Well, apparently Giovanni and Pesci Pericard won Basel, and presumably we did a load of podcasting about it, but I've got no memory of it. He has drawn Joel Fonseca in round 1 this year. Other round 1 matches include Taylor Fritz against Valentin Vachereau. Remember him?
Yes.
That's fun. That's a really fun
That is
round.
really fun. As is Felix Auger-Aliassime against Gabriel Diallo. Auger-Aliassime, of course, aiming to hunt down Lorenzo Musetti. You've got Ben Shelton, Casper Ruud, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, Jakub Menchik and Artur Rinderknecht all in the draw.
And on the doubles order of play today, have you seen this? You're going to be annoyed about this, Catherine. Just a little heads up. On the doubles order of play, up against Joao Fonseca, in fact, is Nicolas Mahut. Playing with Pierre Hugues-Herbert.
He's coaching somebody, isn't he? Isn't he?
Oh,
he's
definitely retired.
Retirement doesn't
Probably
mean
still with the
anything
thing.
anymore. Meaningless. Oh, well, good luck to them getting.
But
the
then I
band
was
back
like, oh,
together.
the band back together. I do
Yeah.
like it, Bear Mo. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck to them. Okay, that's this week. We'll be back on Monday to talk about it. Before then, though, we'll be in Wrexham. Today is this week is the week of our big Wrexham debut, Wednesday night. We're looking forward to seeing. Why are you chuckling, Matt?
Debut. Just true, but just suggests more.
Well, look, we'll see how Wednesday goes, and
You never know.
we'll review afterwards.
There might be a clamour.
We are very excited and touched and overwhelmed that so many of you are coming to Wrexham to see us on Wednesday, and it really is going to be a good time. Billie Jean is confirmed to be attending. She has a chaperone for the night. Her date is David Whittaker, also travelling to Wrexham. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I am looking forward to it. The weather is better in Wrexham on Wednesday than it is down here, and I don't want to do many more dog walks like I did this morning. So get me out of here. Get me to Wrexham. Yes, so whoever's coming to Wrexham on Wednesday, we can't wait to see you. And it's going to be a good show. So that is Wednesday. We'll be back on Monday with another podcast. And we're looking forward to the week ahead. We have a mascot, nay, two mascots. Folks, I introduce you to Archie and Alfie, owned by Amanda Kirkland. Oh my goodness, look at these faces. Archie is a 4-year-old miniature golden doodle. Who loves watching tennis with his mama. Entering into his second year as a pet mascot. He is begrudgingly excited to share the spotlight with his little brother Alfie. A petite English cream golden doodle. Now, is petite a descriptor there, or is it an official part of the breed? I'll look that up. Both pups love their new home in New Jersey. Two New Jersey floofs, Matt. What a week for it as well. I saw Springsteen deliver me from nowhere this last week.
With Springsteen.
Strong recommend.
Sort of.
Well, he
You
was
weren't
there.
like
Yes, I
sharing
watched
popcorn,
Bruce.
but he was there.
Yeah, I'd have been up for that. Yes, I watched Bruce watch his own biopic. It was great. Archie and Alfie. Look, I mean, you can't go wrong with a doodle. That's my dog policy. So it's very big of you, Archie, to allow your stage to be shared with your younger brother, Alfie. And what a twosome, what a duo they make. They are absolutely gorgeous. And they look very clean. Obviously haven't been on a walk like I went on this morning. We have our mascots, Phoebe, Maisie and Roger. Hello to you. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. Let's have some shout-outs, Matt.
Just the one shout-out today. It's a very special shout-out for Cara from Wrexham.
Hey.
Cara's coming to the show on Wednesday.
Exactly. And
What a
Cara,
legend.
we've met, and Cara wrote a lovely little thing in her shout-out. She wanted to pay tribute to her grandparents, who introduced her to tennis when she was a child. And she says, I wouldn't be here and listening if it wasn't for them. I'd like to dedicate this shout-out to Pat, and particularly in loving memory to Grandad Gwyn, who passed away in September. I love you both so much, Cara says.
Oh, Cara, I'm sorry to hear that. That's a beautiful tribute, and Cara is a lovely person. Cara wrote us a letter that she gave to us at the live show in London earlier this summer. She's made us friendship bracelets before. She's the loveliest and been such a wonderful supporter of ours, and we are looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday, Cara, in Wrexham. Our Wrexham debut. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network, and we will speak to you in a week, unless you're coming to Wrexham. We'll see you then.